Hello, and welcome to our Mississippi Mandated Reporter training on child abuse and neglect. Today's presentation will be presented by Emanuela Onier, Jamel Walker, and Asia White. Key content to be covered in today's presentation will be definitions of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect, mandated reporting requirements, indicators of maltreatment in school-age children, reporting protocols and hotline procedures, legal immunity and penalties for failure to report, role of interdisciplinary collaboration in child protection. Child abuse and neglect. We will start by first asking, what is child abuse and neglect? Child abuse and neglect refer to any form of abuse or neglect towards a child under the age of 18 by a parent, caregiver, or any individual in a position of responsibility, such as a religious leader, coach, or teacher. Common types of child abuse and neglect. One type is physical abuse, and this is the use of physical force that can result in bodily injury of a child. Examples of this is hitting, kicking, shaking, or other shows of force against a child. You may see bruises, burns, or fractures that may represent physical abuse. Another type is sexual abuse, which refers to any completed or attempted sexual acts or sexual contact with a child by a caregiver, authority figure, or any individual. Examples of this is fondling, penetration, rape, and exposing a child to other sexual activities. Neglect is the failure to meet a child's basic physical and emotional needs. These needs include housing, food, clothing, education, access to medical care, and having one's feelings validated and responded to in an appropriate manner. Child trafficking, which is an illegal transportation of a child under the age of 18 for forced labor, sex, exploitation, or forced marriages. Emotional abuse is another form of abuse, refers to behaviors that harm a child's self-worth or emotional well-being. Examples are verbal assaults, name-calling, shaming, rejecting, threats, and isolation.
On this slide, we decided to talk about signs and symptoms of child abuse and neglect. When recognizing the signs and symptoms of child abuse and neglect, it is very important to look at physical, behavior, and emotional indicators. Physically, a child may have unexplained bruises or injuries, appear malnourished, have poor hygiene, or show signs of untreated medical problems. Behaviorally, children might become aggressive or withdrawn, show fear of certain adults or going home, or suddenly change in behavior or school performance. Emotionally, they may struggle with low self-esteem, depression, or frequent crying and anxiety. Indicators of neglect can also include frequent absences from school, a lack of supervision, or a child who is often hungry, tired, or appears unclean. On this slide, we decided to cover some causes and risks of child abuse and neglect. The causes and risks of child abuse and neglect often come from a combination of family, environmental, and child-related factors. Within families, issues like substance abuse, mental health challenges, domestic violence, poverty, or a lack of parenting skills and support can increase the likelihood of neglect and abuse. Environmental factors such as unsafe or overcrowded living conditions, community violence, and limited access to resources of child care also play a major role. In some cases, children with disabilities, chronic illness, or behavioral challenges may be at higher risk due to added stress these factors place on caregivers. The outcome of abuse and neglect can be serious, leading to physical injuries, emotional trauma, poor self-esteem, academic troubles, and long-term mental health problems. Understanding these causes and risks help us find a better way to support families. We also decided to cover prevention strategies of child abuse and neglect. Preventing child abuse and neglect involves a combination of family support, community involvement, education, and strong policies. Families can benefit from parenting education, counseling, and access to mental health or substance abuse services. Communities play a role by strengthening local programs and encouraging awareness and reporting of suspected abuse. Education is also key, teaching children about safety and boundaries while training teachers and caregivers to recognize warning signs. Finally, strong child protection laws and support at-risk families help create a safer environment for children and reduce the likelihood of abuse and neglect.
In 2023, Mississippi had 32,923 referrals for child abuse and neglect. Also in 2023, you can see that 43.7% of African Americans were victims of child abuse, and 45.9% of white were also victims of child abuse. So white and African Americans make up the majority of child victims. Here is a table that shows maltreatment types of child victims by percentages. As you can see in 2023, 17.5% of child victims were emotionally abused, 5.1% were medically neglected, 75.1% were neglected, 15.1% were victims of physical abuse, and 12.1% was sexually abused, and 0.4% was sex trafficking.
In this session, let's look into mandatory reporting. A mandatory reporter is any individual or professional who is required by law to report known or suspected cases of abuse or neglect. Mississippi law specifies the mandatory reporting requirements. According to the law, any person within reasonable cause to suspect neglect or abuse must report it. This includes teachers, social workers, nurses, clergy, school staff, and law enforcement officers. Oral reports must be made immediately, followed by written reports to the Department of Child Protection Services. If the case is severe, Mississippi Department of Child Protection Services, MDCPS, must report it to the youth court, law enforcement, and the prosecutors within 24 to 72 hours, and can report to Military Family Advocacy Program if caregiver is an active duty military personnel. Indicators of maltreatment that call for mandatory reporting include physical signs, behavioral signs, emotional legal reporting approach from sin and accountability, identify evidence, failure to